And we do upload this recording in our YouTube channel, as you can see. So subscribe to this. You can also see the previous sessions that we ran in this user group. These are some of the future sessions. We are pretty much booked till end of the year. And you can sign up for all of this and more on our meetup. There are a bunch of Microsoft PMs will be coming in the future talks. These are one-day event free of cost. These happen all around the world. I mostly put the US one, but as you can see, there's Edinburgh, Stockholm, Denmark. So there are two websites called SQLsaturday.com and datasaturdays.com. You can go there and get more details. Shameless plug, I'm organizing one in Boston, October 14th. If you are a speaker, you can go to Sessionize, submit your session, or if you're in New England area, you can join us. It's going to be a free of cost whole day of training. Past summit for this year will be in person. It will be in Seattle from November 14th to 17th. Check the website for more details. As I said before, if you want to speak, have a suggestion, any feedback for the leadership team, please do send us an email. We do monitor this mailbox, every few days because we also have a full-time job. So, and with that, I will thank. Yes.
Yep. Can I just chip in for a quick second? So we also have a virtual session by George Walters for the Houston area SQL Server user group at 7:30 Eastern today on working at Microsoft. Remember, he did it for one of our SQL Saturdays. So he's going to be talking. I will send the link here for those who are interested.
Okay, thanks. With that, I want to thank Gene. Gene does a lot for the community. So thank you, Gene. He'll be talking about this topic, as you all know. So I'm going to keep quiet. I will stop sharing, and I will pass this to Gene.
So much, Ali. Hopefully you can hear me, right? Tim, are you able to see my screen?
Yes, I can see that. Yeah.
Yep.
Sorry. Yep, it's on now.
Great, thank you. Just I want to welcome everyone one more time. Okay, wherever you are, we welcome you. Um, uh, it would be great if you have a question, keep it, okay, and wait until the end, right? Because I'll do my best, okay, to keep this in waiting 45 minutes. Therefore, I have time because at 4 I have to leave the meeting. Great. This presentation is related to data cleansing technique, right? And I'm going to walk you through some of the effective ways you can use to clean your data. Okay, before we go to the demo, I will walk you through some of the things, the key considerations you need to plan accordingly. By the way, my name is Jean-Joseph. Ali did a great job. He already introduced me, right? I don't have to spend too much time. I think most of you know me because I normally support the community. Okay. I work for Microsoft as a technical trainer. Prior to Microsoft, I used to be a data engineer. Prior to that, I used to be a senior database administrator. I've been in IT for about 21 years so far. I started my career as a network administrator, and I'm also the founder and the main organizer of Data Driven Community. Under Data Driven Community, we have Cloud Data Driven, which is a user group. We meet weekly. And then we have, for example, Feature Data Driven, which is an event. We have that yearly. Yeah, if you want to connect with me, this is you can scan this and co-connect with me on LinkedIn. Great. Perfect. Here's the agenda, team. The agenda is I'm gonna do it quick introduction to analysis and the ultimate guide to data cleaning. And also I'm gonna give work you and discuss as well about data cleaning, prep, and process. And then we will revisit the 5 characteristics of data quality. After that, I'm gonna go over demo. I would say 70% of this presentation is demo, right? And then I will provide you a tons of useful functions to prep your data as well. Great. We cannot talk about data cleansing using SQL without considering data analysis and scientists, correct? But even that, we have to revisit the entire process team. Before you're able to get the data, there's a tons of things you need to take in consideration. The first thing, we normally gather information, and by gathering information, we will be able to identify all the necessary steps. What I mean by necessary steps, we will get to know where to access the data. We will get to know the nature of the data. What I mean by the nature of the data refers to data classifications. Are we dealing with a structured, unstructured, or semi-structured? We also get to know what we call, for example, the volume of the data, right? Therefore, we will be able to do a basic data discovery and exploration for us to be able to see if business, if the data we are about to call to process, okay, will meet business expectation. If not, we have to go to find out, is it because of data silo, or we have to go from a third party and buy that data? Once this is done, that's when we will connect all that data. We will centralize them, right? Document them. And then with that, we will be able to outline the technical requirements to know, okay, do we have people in-house to help us clean that data, process that data, and change that data to a format where business can perform analysis. After that, we will need to know what would be the best approach. Okay, then that's when extracting come. Extracting is more about relating to data movement. So you cannot extract the data without understanding the data processing architectural pattern. Therefore, you have to think if you have to use Lambda or if you have to use Kappa. And most of the time, there's a trade-off team between ETL and ELT. And you also need to understand when you're designing these, we normally, for example, take in consideration what we call cost, because we have to design to optimize for compute and storage. This is where we fit in for this presentation. This is where the data cleansing take place, right? And this is where we will leverage SQL. Most of the time, if you take a look of data analysts or scientists, they use Python, they use Scalar, they use things kind of complicated, whereas they're dealing with RDBMS, they could have used SQL, correct? But during the cleaning, there's a tons of things you will need to take in consideration. There's assumptions, right, about value, and then you need to take in consideration data type, because if we take date format, the one in USA is different from the one from France. So you have to take this in consideration. Sometimes we may need to transpose the data. We may need, for example, to pivot the data, reshaping the data, restructuring the data, doing the cleansing, right? And we have to take in consideration of identifying error or outliers and missing data. Then once this is done, we will need to store the data. Nowadays, we have to pay attention because consistency matter. We are dealing with distributed system, correct? And processing the data, okay, matter because you have to think of performance, scalability, and reliability. Then after that, that's when analysis start. Doing the analysis, we can bring any kind of front end things to do analysis. We can see Power BI. That's one of my favorite one. I'm not a machine learning guys. Okay, I cannot talk too much about this. We can have Excel. We can have Python. We can have some other framework like MongoDB. Wait, so now, guess what happened? What is data cleansing is all about? Now we know the process. We know where we fit in, okay? So Data cleansing is all about removing irrelevant observation or duplicates, fix structural errors, right? Filtering unwanted outliers, handle missing data. And after that, you need to be able to perform some analysis against that data to see if that data will meet business expectation. Okay, so you have to understand that the data makes sense. You have to understand that. Okay, does the data follow the appropriate rules? Okay, does the data, for example, does it bring any insight to light? Okay, can you find trends in the data to help you perform your next theory? And if not, is it a matter of data quality or is it a matter of data silo? Or we don't have that data at all. We will need to buy it from a third party. Great. So when we cannot think of data cleansing team without thinking of what we call the 5 dimensions of data quality, like completeness. Completeness refer to non-nulls and non-blanks. So how can we complete them, right? You have to provision that. And we also have to think of the uniqueness, right? So how many times the data repeated? We can think also of what we call cardinality, correct? And then we have to think of consistency. Consistency, you can think of having a pattern. For example, if you take a look here, you will see that we have 5 nines. And sometimes we may have data that have 1 9, another one have 3 9s, another one have 5 9s, another one have 4 9s. There's no consistency. We have to provide consistency across that data for all records, correct? We have to think as well of validity. Validity refers to matching, okay, the percentage of value that match your reference data. Then you have to think of accuracy. Accuracy is the percentage of identical and unaltered field value across your database. After that, you think of linkage. And team, if I speak a little bit too fast, forgive me because there's a tons of demo and I want to cover the entire things, okay? Linkage is where, for example, you make sure you focus on the percentage of related field value that can be integrated equals your database or even equals different database. Yeah. When we have clean data team, what would be the benefit, right? We increase the overall productivities, no doubt. Once this is increased, we have a highest quality information to make better decisions, correct? And then what else do we have? We have fewer error, and fewer error will make your client happy. And therefore, there will be less frustration for your internal IT employee, right? So guess what happened? Consider this is a simple things. Now we go into something, okay? Because I know all of you can't wait for the demo. This is the data that we have. And business feel that this is not really readable, and they want to split that data this way. They want to change the shape. So far, you can see there is no manipulation. This is all related to reshaping. And sometimes if we have this shape like that, okay, you can see we have 4 numbers that use a comma separator. Here we have 2, here we have 1. The business can say, I want you to split each one into a different columns. So guess what happened? That's where people can use Python. As people come from a software development can use PostSpark, whereas SQL have a tons of good functions that will allow you to do that. So let me jump to my VM. First, I'm gonna navigate to the location where I have my presentation. Okay, this is the one for today. Okay. So what I'm going to do is the restructuring part. So this is the one I'm gonna load, okay? If you take a look here, we only have one data. one field. What I'm doing here, I'm gonna drop that table if it exists, okay? And I'm gonna go and create this table and make it insert. Very simple. So now you can see I make a select. You can see now that's the exact data we were seeing from the slide, right? Consider if I want to query that data, the old way we used to do it is just to show you, that's the script we used to do. So we have to come here, we get the first one, take a look, and then we have the first one repeated all over the place. So, yep, that's what happened. Oh, give me 1 second. We have this one. If you take a look, repeat, we keep on repeating things. Let me come back here. If I grab this one, you will see that. But this is a little bit hard to perform. I think we should keep it from here. But you can see that this is a little bit hard to troubleshoot. Okay, it's a little bit hard. This one might give you a good performance if the underlying data perhaps is so big. But one thing I want you to understand, it's going to be hard for you to troubleshoot this. Why? Because troubleshooting may not be something easy. Even though if you master SQL, it will take you sometimes. Correct. SQL Server has some great functions, teams. In fact, something that can make it simpler. It is going to be the same data, and I want to execute this, okay? And I'm going to show you that's the same data, okay? So now, here's what I'm doing, team, and I want you to see that. Let me query this first for you to understand. I'm using split string, okay? And the comma delimiter is is a the delimiter is a comma, and I can see it here. So we all can agree with me that you can see for each line, I have 7 lines. Take a look. This is this one. This is this one. This is this one. This is this one. And then if you take a look here, this is this one. This is this one. And this is this one. And then this is the last one. Okay, look. This is the last one. So now, no, this is the last one. So therefore, it restart here. For each line, it's restart. So what I'm doing here, I'm pivoting the data, and I want each row, each number to become one row. So now I said 1 is number, 2 is region, 3 is cells, and so on. When I select the entire data, you can clearly see I have the same result set. So therefore, it's going to be easy for you to troubleshoot. You can see how simple is this. Let's leave this here, team. Let's go and do some other things. This is some extra. When it comes to reshaping, team, I'm gonna drop this table if it exists. Okay. What I'm going to do, I'm gonna insert this data. And what I'm going to do, I'm gonna select this data, team. So if you take a look here, if they want me to break this to address, this is city name, this is province. Instead of using car index, team, if you remember here, okay. If you remember here, I use car index, substrings. I do all of this. If it's 4 colons, you can leverage pass name to do that. I'm using paths name. The thing you need to understand when you're using paths names, you have to start with the last index because the last index is 4, therefore it's going to be your first colon. The second last index is 3, it's going to be your second colon. So your first index is going to be your last colon. If I execute this, you can see how simple is this. We were able to reshaping this. Perfect. We could have done the same thing, Tim. Let me show you something. For example, If we take a look here, I'm jumping this table. I'm creating it and insert data there. And now I'm gonna make a select. You can see there is a select here, correct? If business want me to create one column, primary column, phone, secondary phone, or mobile phone, home phone, cell phone, secondary cell phones, if business want me to split it that way, I can still leverage what we call string split to do that. That's the same thing that I'm doing. If you take a look here, I want you to see the script, correct? Um, I am pivoting again, and then, and I want each phone one, phone two, phone three, phone four to become one column, correct? So things you need to understand. If you're not sure about how many phones you may get or depend on the data, if you're doing, you can dynamically, uh, if the comma, if it's a comma delimiter, you can have a count of that delimiter to see how many you have. You can dynamically create this and name it however you want. If I select this, you will see that the one that have four numbers, I was able to generate 4 columns. The one that have two, I create two. The one that have four, I create four. And the one that have one, I was able to create one. Wait. Other things you might need to think of when it comes to, we talk about string, split, and there's another one called aggregate. String aggregate, what I like about it, you can use group and you can order either ascendant or descendant, correct? So guess what? I'm gonna create this one, okay? And then I'm gonna insert some data. When I insert some data, hopefully I created. Perfect, I did, okay. So now I'm gonna, the goal team, let me make a selection. The goal is to group all the emails. That's the goal by country. The goal, they want you to group all the email by country. You can see that I have Brazil, I have one email. Mexico, I have another one. If you take a look, Russia have a tons of emails here. So consider if they want you to do that, they want you to aggregate. If you take a look here, let's come here. You can see that. Let's read that data together. You can see Brazil is one, Mexico is one, Russia have 5, but Russia does not have one, right? So we have USA have 4. If you want to aggregate it, I can use string aggregate for that. I can have a comma, have space, follow it, and aggregate that data. And therefore, you should see it that way. So the same way you can, for example, change the structure from one way into another, you can revert it back. You can either use string split or string aggregate. There might be other things you might need to think of, is that replicated. There's replicated and format. This is where I was talking about. You need to understand the 5 dimensions. So I'm gonna insert this. If you take a look here, drop this if it exists, recreate the table and insert that. And I'm gonna select format. When I select format team, you can clearly see there's no consistency. So therefore, as a data analyst or scientist, you have to bring consistency across your entire data set. So how can we do it? We can use replicate if we want. I'm using replicate here. Okay, I said, I want you to replicate 0 and the max length is 9 and I want you to minus 9 by registration code. So therefore, if it's 5, replicate the 0 5 times. If it's 6, replicate it 6 times. And I want you to return that registration code. So when I select this, you can clearly see that there's consistency. You could have done the same thing with format, but there will be a bit of performance cost. As you can see, it take a second, even though it take a couple more milliseconds, even though the data set is so small, right? Other things you might need to think of when it comes to reshaping is that what I'm going to do, let me see this one. You do need to understand car, for example, 10, car 13, car 9. When we cleaning the data, we ignore this one, or we may think a new line or line breaker or carriage return or tab can be considered as empty space, and we think we can replace it. I'm gonna show you this one, Tim, and I'm gonna explain to you. You can see that we have data in different uh, line. Okay, we have new line breaker, correct? When I select the data, what I have seen people done, they use replace. In that case, replace won't work. Consider when you deploy it to production, people start troubleshooting, the developer will tell you, yep, they replace it, it's fixed. The way they normally done it and show you, yes, it is fixed. If you're doing it this way, therefore, it is not really fixed. If I press Control C and say, give me the display as text, if I click here, you will see that the data didn't clean. So things that you need to understand. Therefore, I will need to think of what we call car 13 and car 10, and I want to replace this. When I replace this, if I select this, you will see that the data was able to clean. Great, perfect. So now this is kind of what we call reshaping. When it comes to cleaning, there's a tons of great functions out there that Microsoft SQL Server support, and sometimes it's hard for for us to have sometimes free times to pinpoint what they're capable of. We may use them, we may not use them the correct way, or if we do, because we're too advanced, we have too much knowledge, the fundamental knowledge, we don't have it. Let me explain what I mean. How many of you use windowing functions? And you need to understand when you using windowing functions, there is range, there is rows. Range is the default one, right? And range will execute everything in MDB, and it is the default one, whereas rows will execute in memory. So therefore, you can see you will gain great performance. Not only if you use rows, you will gain great performance, but data integrity increase. So what I want you to understand, this is one that I use. That's the same query. I explicitly say unbounded preceding just to show you range is the default one. Okay, because of times, I'm going to execute both of them. We can do the analysis together. So take a look. Give me 1 second. Let me increase this because I want you to see. The first one is range team. The second one is rows. Let me ask you a question. There is something wrong here. Can you please tell me what is it between these two result sets? Feel free to mute yourself if you want to. There is something wrong here. Can you please tell me what is it?
Jean, nobody can unmute because it's a large group. So,
Okay, perfect.
but people can put comment in the chat and I can read to you.
Thank you so much, Ali.
Yeah, so you can put the answer in the chat. I'll read it to Jean because it's just become too chaotic if we let everyone use the mic. It's a large group, so sometimes I get more than 100 people here.
Absolutely agree. Tim, let me give you some hint. You have to think of the data integrity.
So
Okay.
Tyler is saying, is it duplicate column? He put a question mark.
Um, if Tyler say duplicate, can you tell Tyler to elaborate? Where is it? Tell me where can I find that duplicate?
I'm sure Tyler is hearing, right? So I'm going to, yeah, Tyler said first table result.
Okay, where? On what field can I identify the duplicate?
Maybe I can unmute Tyler, see if I can find Tyler.
No, if that creating extra work for you, Ali, just leave it that way. So if you take a look here, Tim, we have duplicate. The one we did not explicitly mention range, and the
Oh,
one we explicitly mention range. Okay, so you
yeah,
can
Tony
clearly
said, so Tony said total due to purchase order detail
yes,
ID 2 is
yeah,
different. Yeah.
perfect, perfect. If you take a look here, this is something that is not correct because we're using range. It is not. It is not correct. Okay, so therefore, if here you get the correct value. Let's do analyze. Let's analyze this together. This is the warning total. This is the first total. We have this. If we plus this total with this, we don't get this. This is what we get. That's the right value. If we plus this with this one, this is what we get. You can clearly see range was not able to discover that. That's how you may end up to give business the wrong value when you deploy your process or your data to productions. So I would highly suggest you to leverage rows over range. Don't use the default. Not only it will get you better performance, but it will also increase your data integrity. Perfect. There's other things you might need to think of, team. So
Gene,
I'm gonna
I know you do not want to take question, but I think this is relevant. Kingsley asked a question, why is it not correct? So I'm not exactly sure which record Kingsley is referring to.
So if you take a look these two records, it summarizes these three records together. You see, it summarizes them together. If you take a look, these three records have been summarized. So the range done the calculation for these two when you're doing the total warning here. Let me bring. If you take a look here, these two has been added up. And then the range gave you the result set, what was done in the other end, eight add up each one separately. Instead of eight, but if you take a look, the purchase ID are the same. The purchase ID are the same. Range focus on the purchase ID and give you a complete aggregations out of that purchase ID, right? Whereas range in the other end, you're running the daily total sales range do no sorry row done the calculation row by row instead of range. If you take a look here, range summarize these two, and then rows give you the row value. So therefore, you will need to take this in consideration. Does that answer your question?
Kingsley, does that answer your question? If you can just, yes, he said, thank you very much. So Jim, go ahead. Sorry for this.
No,
I
that's
thought it
fine.
was relevant. Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
That's fine. You're welcome. So other things during the migration process team, right? When I used to work as a consultant, we were doing the migrations. And the migrations, they were on old legacy. That legacy, they are migrating it to a higher SQL Server, to a higher front-end applications. So they said in case if they want to go back, they want to get the first five character and the last six character. So therefore, just to just to show you, for example, the primary process the developer wrote was to concatenate both of them. It failed. Okay, he went online to find out why, and then he found some good articles. Those articles mentioned to use convert left, convert, and cast. He followed the entire instructions. Guess what happened? He still get the wrong value. So you can see that the first five character happened to be my first name, the last 6 character happen to be my last name. So team, if you have to resolve such issue is that we don't have time, okay? I'm gonna proceed, is that you need to understand convert has a parameter, and that parameter, for example, called style, okay? So here, if I change this to 0, I will get the same result set that I got. For some reason, I'm not sure why my keyboard don't work. Okay, not sure why my keyboard doesn't work, but that's right. Great, now it's working. If I change this to 0, team, you will see that I will get the same one. But now, if I change it to 1, when I change it to 1, what I do, I force it to keep the data the way it is without changing the state of the data. You can clearly see that I will get the result that I need. And then this is something simple. Other things we might think when we're cleaning the data, this is reverse. If you want to get some data, I'm pretty sure we all know this, but where I want to go with you is stream. The old way, if you take a look here, I have this one I need to remove. I have this one I need to remove. And I need also to trim the leading and the trailing. So things that I want you to understand, trim, support leading and trailing. It support both. There's no need for you to use replace multiple times with trim. And there's no need for you to use multiple replace with L or right trim if you are on a, I would say at least SQL Server 2016, correct? So now if you take a look here, you can clearly see when I execute this, both of them give me the same result set. If I do this, you will see that not only trim remove this character, it's remove this space as well. So take a look. This is the same thing, right? And those functions, they are there. That's the same things. Other things you might need to think of is what we call translate. There's translate and replace that you can use. For translate, if you take a look here, I'm using replace multiple times. Team, this is 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, 4 times. Okay. And then whereas I could have used translate and get the same thing done. When I execute this, you can see both of them give me the same result set. Whereas translate is more readable. But the downside of translate, the length has to match. If the length change, consider if I add another one, it will not work. And I will explain this to you. Sometimes you might need to choose replace over translate. Okay, but sometimes translate might make sense. I will explain this to you. If you take a look here, you know this is my data community. Okay, so now I'm gonna replace this data-driven community with New England SQL Server. Okay, user group. So what I'm going to do here is I'm gonna select this. You will see that this is working. It works. If I use translate here, it will not work, Tim. You got wrong data. So therefore you need to know when to use translate and when to use replace. But the thing is, if you take a look here, SQL Server here has a typo mistake. So if I add R, it will fail because the length has to be the same. Take a look. It's failed now because translate will require the length match, whereas replace does not have these restrictions. There's other things you might need to think of, even some data types you might need to think of. When you prep your data, okay, you need to understand some data type can impact your total sometimes. So take a look. This is a functions. I'm using float. I said 1.0, 1.2. And I'm using a case statement team. I said if I plus these two, if it's equal to 0.0, then 1. If else 0, you will see this one give me one data set, one result set. Whereas if I change this float, I cast it to decimal, I will get the good data. Let's take a look together. You can see that this one say it is 0. In reality, it is not true. And this one say it is 1, right? Sometimes date can be, data type can provide you one result set. Let's justify this. I said, if this one is equal to 5.0, I want you to stop the loop. If I come back here and I execute this, you will see that I already passed 5.0. Give me one second. Let me show you. Let me stop it. First of all, you can clearly see I already passed 5.0, but because this is float, you understand? It behave kind of different way. Whereas if I use the same thing with a different data type, I said, I want you to stop if it's 5.0, and if it's different, stop. As soon as it's 5.0, it is stopped. So things you need to understand when you're prepping your data, do not minimize the data type. Other things you might need to take in considerations. If you're removing duplicate, I think we can leave this, or let me go to the last example because there is other things I might need to talk about. So let me, if you take a look here, there's different ways we normally take a look at removing duplicates. The best way I have seen developer done it is have it this way, and then they use row to generate that data, right? But if the underlying data set is huge, that can impact. It's simpler, okay, but that can be a performance bottleneck. Okay, there will be different way we can do it that can cause data issue. So now we won't have time to go over everything, but what I would suggest you to do, you can leverage CT and then you perform your deduplication, and then you will be able to provide the correct data set. Perfect. So now we work on this one. There's going to be cases, team. There's going to be cases where the data may not be able to fix using what we call um, uh, using streaming, using car index, removing duplicate data, removing outliers data, and there will be cases it's impossible for you to do in, or equal. It, that you cannot do that because the state of the data change. Consider you have a front-end applications where people entering informations and they make a typo. And that typo, I know this is my nickname, which is Garia. That's my nickname, okay? So I know it should be double L. Somebody put Garia, okay? And then when they put Garia, it's a mistake. So this kind of mistake, you cannot fix it with equal on. So this is where you will need to understand the different type of error, right? And those kind of error, when it comes to misspelling, when it comes to incomplete data, when it comes to formatting data, you have to think of a fuzzy searching technique. A fuzzy searching technique is something that uh, allow you to find the string that match a pattern. That doesn't mean it is the right thing. And you can use it for transpositions, jumping letter, extra letter, missing prefix or suffix. You can use it for nickname as well, last name, comma, first name. And with that, you have to think of some special character index, which is like sound index, okay? And also, you may need to think of what we call difference. Uh, I'm not gonna go to the demo. I'm gonna share this clip. Let me wait for 10 minutes or 5 to see if you have questions. If you don't, I will dive into the demo.
There are two questions that I was holding off just in the interest of time. So Kamal asked, this was during, when you were sharing some code and asking question. Kamal asked, can we use where clause in range? I think you have to go back to your SSMS when last time you were sharing it. I think it was related to that. And
Sure,
then Neil Magdam, I'm not sure if I'm switching first or last name, I'm sorry, asked the question, can we see diff in queries? So I think that this is when you were quizzing about I think the correct data set or wrong data set. I don't remember exactly. This was around 3:35 p.m. East Coast time. So maybe both of them can put a little bit more details so you can get to the point where the question was asked.
okay, the workloads, I forgot the name. Do I have to put it on purchase ID?
Okay, so Kamal said, likewise, we can use where clause in row number over partition in order by. So I think the question is, can we use where clause in range the same way we can use it in row number over partition in order by? So I think this is, yeah, you're probably here. I don't remember exactly.
Eh,
I think it's
Um,
right here. Yeah.
yeah, I'm not sure if I understand the question correctly, but if the workloads is what he's asking, even though when I use the workloads, you can see that the total based on against these two. Whereas if I use that same workloads here, it should give me a different type of result set. So that's the difference between range. Uh, There might be cases range might be useful if you want to do the analysis across, for example, across the purchase ID. Okay, but if you take a look here you get the data because you're doing the analysis, you're wanting total. So therefore, range will not work. Here, you get a range of the total based on the purchase ID. Hopefully, I was able to answer that question.
And another one was from Neil. Can you use diff in queries? So I'm not, it's just a DIFF. I don't know if we need to elaborate a little bit exactly what Neil is asking.
I'm not sure what that question mean by diff. Is it based on what? Can can that can you elaborate me a bit based on that question? Oh, can we use different diff
Diff,
in
mm,
queries? No, I still don't get it. Magdam, if I say it right, can you elaborate me a bit?
yeah, total div was duplicating. Yeah, okay. I see now what is. So if you see the chat, yeah. So
Oh,
yeah,
okay, that was related to the range. Yeah, that's the reason why you said duplicated. That was related to the range. Any other questions?
no, there's nothing.
Okay,
Oh no,
perfect.
no, oh no, Kamal has put something. Kamal said, for example, where clause for specific orders only where purchase order ID equals to. So if you look at that, maybe it will make more sense instead of me reading it. So
It says workloads. Oh, you talking me about wench, Kamal? Okay, perfect. Let's give it a try right now. So you want me to let me partition it first. You want me to partition by order ID, right? Give me 1 second. Let me partition. Is this modification correct before I proceed? That's the only thing. Give me 1 second. Okay, perfect. Yep. Let's try this one live. you still get the same result set. Does that answer your question, Kamal?
Yes, he said yes. So yeah,
Okay.
move on. You have
Great.
8 minutes if you want to show demos or
Yes,
whatever you want. Yeah.
I can walk through the demo. Let me go for the demo. For fuzzy lookup team, what I'm going to do is I'm gonna, um, for example, uh, if that it, I'm gonna create this database if it's not exist, and I'm gonna drop the table, and I will insert some data here. So if you take a look here, Tim, take a look. This is the data that we have. Consider this is the applications. And if you remember this applications, okay, is a very critical applications, okay. For example, the employee ID, if anybody have this, have access to the entire customer information. So they said we're not gonna send the employer ID to the FTP location, but what we're going to do is to, for example, send you the data. There might be mistake within the data. You will need to find out how to resolve this data. So therefore, you cannot think of equal. Let me explain this to you. So if I come back here, this is our production data. So this data will be there as a key lookup team. Anytime when they are welcoming a new uh, um, uh, business client or member, they're gonna enter it from their end straight on productions. But any transactions that business client issue, those information are the one that come into your FTP. Consider, okay, these files is, for example, my um, uh, my staging. This is the contact, okay? So this is the staging contact, if you take a look. So this is the staging. This is the data from the FTP that we load. We can clearly see there are some kind of error messages. Go ahead. I'm gonna come back here, okay? I'm gonna create a table. The final goal is to feed this table and call it contacts. We need to bring, let me execute the entire thing. We need to bring the employee ID, first name, last name. But if you take a look here, let me go back here. This is where we can think of sound decks, okay, and what we call sound decks. How does it work? So if you take a look here, Smith, it will tell you if it sounds kind of the same, and we get the same result set, okay? So now I'm gonna use my database context, and I'm gonna select both tables, okay? You can clearly see here uh, the table that have the good data, which is the kilocup table, have the right information, but the staging doesn't have the right data. So therefore, we cannot turn off equal. If we put it equal, here we have double F, here we have double R. So there will be no data return. So therefore, we cannot think of this. What we can think of instead is to, for example, use SoundX to bring that data. As you can see now, the lookup table have the great information, but the stage table does not have. But we don't care about the first name, the last name. All we care is about bringing the phone number, bringing the email, and bringing the information that we don't have, right? And then we also have the ID. So things you need to understand, we have 18 records. Okay, if we have 18 records, if we pay close attention, take a look here, we have, for example, 19 records. So therefore, you can see there must be a manual validation or occur, or How can we find out what record we have to do the manual validation? How can we automate the process? Things that you need to understand. I'm going to just go and insert that data to populate my contact table. Okay. I just inserted. I have 18 record inserted. So now I have one record that I cannot get. If you take a look here, I got the correct informations. But here's the thing. Business may say anything that you can automate, automate it. But things that you cannot automate, I want to do a manual validations. So the manual validation, this is where the difference comes in. The difference requires two sounds index as input, and it will return you a value between 0 to 4. 0 sound like it's impossible to be the right information. 4 sounds like it's a great candidate to be the right data. I'm 100%, I'm kind of 100% sure this might be the right data. So let's do some analysis. If you remember, this is just a quick example to show you the difference between Soundex and difference. If you take a look here, this one, we get the same data, but this one, because there's a difference, we don't get the same data. None of them match. So guess what happened? If I execute this one and I said I need it to be level 4 team, okay? But I want you to understand it will give me the same result set that I have early 18 record. So that way it will not work. The way it will work is that because there is 4 levels and business want to do a manual validation and I need to automate that to send it to business, what I can do, I can use a case statement, okay? And I can only point off where it's equal, and I can only filter where the conditions happen to be 3 and up, so therefore 4. So I don't count level 2, level 1, and 0. And then here, what I'm doing is to look for null value. When I look for the null value, it will return me the record that was missing. If I execute this one team, you will see that I have one record return. So this is the record that I wasn't able to load. So therefore, I can automate this within my pipeline and send it to business to have them validate that record and resend it back for me to know how can I push it back to our data warehouse. Any questions, Tim?
No, someone just put a comment that Kingsley put a comment using Soundex to join data is very creative.
Thank you.
So I know you have to go. So, thank you very much. As soon as I get the link, I'm going to email it to all the attendees so they can download the slide and the demo code. And then also, if anyone needs to follow up, you can reach out to Jean directly. I know Jean for about 3 years now. I'm sure, he will respond to you. I can guarantee you that. Jean, thank you so much. And I'm really sorry, everyone, that we have to rush because Jean definitely have to go to another meeting. So otherwise, normally we hang out here for a few more minutes. But I still appreciate, such a brilliant topic that Jean was able to share some time with us. So
superb work, man. Absolutely superb.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
Yeah, keep an eye for the next month. We have someone from Microsoft again coming. He's a super duper person around Power BI and all those cool stuff. So look up in the meetup. I just published the meeting invite. Thank you again. I'm going to close this meeting, stop recording. See you next month.
Bye,
Thank you
Teo.
again.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Bye.